So as you all know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we at Chai Time have dedicated this month to discussing the importance of mental health, raising awareness, breaking the stigmas, and educating ourselves on ways to support those experiencing mental health challenges. Joining me this morning are my guests, Dr. Michelle Durham, and our dear friend Mahtab Moradi, who needs no introduction at all. And today we are going to talk about mental health, and we have been doing this for this month now, right? And Mahtab, you've been here last week too, and we touched on children's mental health, mental well-being as well. So let's begin with introducing Dr. Durham. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm really happy to be here with you all today.
Yes, happy to have you here on Chai Time. So, Dr. Durham, would you share with our listeners your role in the Sina Foundation?
Sure. Sina Foundation has been in existence for over 20 years here in Houston. Essentially started with one part-time staff member over 20 years ago because they saw the need for people that didn't have insurance or were underinsured to get the care they needed. And so from that, it's grown into over 90 people as a part of the organization with over 6 clinical sites that have been primarily primary care focused, which means, you go to your doctor, you have a pain somewhere or a headache, and they are serving anyone that walks through the door. They have a strong commitment and mission to the fact that everyone deserves health care. And I applaud that. In about 4 months, I decided to join the organization. I'm originally from Louisiana, but have been living in Boston for about 13 years in a real academic setting. So I've moved on, and now I'm in a very community-based setting where they're really thinking about how do we engage people in the community and thinking more about their physical health, but also now with this new sort of mission of thinking about it from a mental health standpoint too. So I've been hired as what we're calling a Chief Behavioral Health Officer. And what that means is essentially building and expanding their mental health services across their 6 clinical sites. And so we do have some part-time staff that was there prior to my arrival, but we plan on building on that. I'm an adult and child trained psychiatrist with an additional certification in addiction medicine. And I think all of those sort of certifications for me really think about how do I care for the whole person that walks through the door and not a piece of them. That's what sort of drove me to be a child psychiatrist and it drove me to do my addiction boards because people come in with lots of different things. And I think it's quite unfair that as a society we have decided that you have to go to multiple different people to help each thing instead of really focusing on the individual in front of you. So with that and that sort of core value of mine, I'm helping and hopefully we'll extend this to the rest of our staff too as we start building our staff over the next year to 2, 3, 4, 5 years to really build our services so that anybody who walks through the door, just like they were doing for physical health, can get mental health care as well.
Wow, that's wonderful. And how did you get involved then, Mahtab?
Well, I had the privilege of meeting Michelle with the Interfaith Roundtable because we at Rupani Foundation and Ibn Sina were kind of sister organizations, and we were trying to really highlight mental health awareness and community outreach in Houston, and kind of bump Texas from being one of the last states for mental health and doing some pretty progressive actions and programming. So I'm super excited about having Michelle on the team and leading the way because that is something that's, that mental health does not need to be compartmentalized. I know in other things compartmentalization is helpful, but not in mental health. And my background in inpatient work, I've always had a competent psychiatrist on my team, what we used to refer to as a treatment team. And you gotta be in communication with the person who gives you your medication and the person who does your talk therapy. And in my old setting, it was a school setting, so we had our teachers, our nurses, everybody. It was almost like a team of parents for that child to overcome all these obstacles that they faced. And we did the comorbidities or multi-access diagnosis. It's, one thing people never realize is that when you get to her level of treating mental illness, it's never just one diagnosis. Sometimes it's, something on axis 1, sometimes it's addiction, sometimes it's, axis 2, which is personality disorder. So to have her in that critical role is really special. And then the child background is even better because you have to understand people in the whole lifespan, right?
Yeah. Wow.
So what did you ask me? That's how I met her. This is why I should have gotten ADD diagnosis. If there was a clinic like that.
But it's wonderful to see how, you connect with people, and then, somehow it moves forward to different things. And then now you're, from one organization, now, you're involved in another one, but somehow they work together and for the same cause. So that's, so that's wonderful. Now, so of course we are talking about mental health, and we just want to touch on different types of, the mental health issues that people kind of have. And we don't know sometimes, right? We go through mood disorders, or we go through anxiety. What are those? We don't even we don't realize sometimes. It's just it happens to us, and there's this uneasy feeling, right? So if you can explain some of those types, mental health, mental illness.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to start with maybe a more broad explanation, which is that we all deserve to be mentally healthy, right? And I think, probably social media and media, thinks of the worst, right? Sometimes when thinking about mental illness, and I think of the field of psychiatry, the field I'm in, it's highly stigmatized. People get very scared of coming to see a psychiatrist. It's 2023, and I definitely saw people come that kind of are forced in some way, probably the school or someone else is like, you gotta go. And they walk in, and the first thing they say is I'm not crazy. And that happens today, right? And so that's unfortunate that we are living in an age where people think you go and see a psychiatrist, that you must be crazy, that you are going to get locked up, that someone's going to force you into a mental facility where you can't leave, that someone's going to restrain you, meaning put you down in some way, or give you what we see on TV as sort of that shock treatment. And I have to say, all of those things are not true. And I'm on this right? I'm on this mission to sort of demystify what treatment is, because I think media has done us a disservice as a field. And so we now have decades, unfortunately, to undo for those of us that are in the mental health profession. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to walk into a mental health professional's room, and all they want to do is talk to you. They want to know, what's your story? What brought you in? Why now? Because sometimes people will say 10 years, 5 years, lengths of time. I'm a child psychiatrist, and we know that most kids will say, I knew at 12 and 13 years old that something wasn't right. And the delay in treatment is 8 to 10 years. That's a fact. Proven. So we don't meet them till they're 23, 24, out of their parents' house or their caregiver's house, or, outside of that. And they're finally I got to do something. But there is an 8 to 10 year gap. So what other place in your physical health would you do that? Would you wait 10 years? Most of us see something. We see something, or something happens to us physically, and the immediate thing is let me go to the doctor.
Yes.
Let me get this checked out. But not in mental health. We wait 8 to 10 years. And, I could go on and on. I'm sure we could all go on and on about the fact that if you're so depressed, maybe so anxious, you're not living your full life, how does that then affect your relationships? How you're academic, do you finish high school? Maybe you finish high school and you're I don't think I'm good enough. I don't go to college. So all the different effects that can have when you don't treat your your mental health. Like your mental health, you're not healthy, and you're not healthy in all ways. So it's not just about physical, but it is as well about mental. And so how do we just bridge that gap? I think is a big thing that we need to do. Probably in our field, we're trying to do it as much as we can. But how do we get that out, that message? And things like this, which I'm happy to be a part of today, helps to get that message out. That what happens when you come into a room, whether it's a psychiatrist. So I'll explain a little bit about that. Like I, went to medical school just like other physicians. So you think about your OBGYN or, the person that delivered your baby, right? Your primary care doc that you see. We all actually went to medical school together. And then at some point, we each had to then decide what is it that we want to do. And so beyond the 4 years, and I said, I want to do psychiatry, whereas your person that delivered your baby said, I want to go into OBGYN. But we all did those 4 years together in medical school. And then I went into residency, and residency for psychiatry is another 4 years of training. And that's just a broad overview of everything in psychiatry. We work in different systems, meaning outpatient, so a clinic setting. We also work in hospital systems. Some of us may go to homeless shelters actually and provide treatment. So it's a big range of things that we do in our 4 years of training, depending on where in the U.S. you train. And then I decided, so most psychiatrists who practice adult work, that's it, they finish and they go off and they decide to practice somewhere, right? I mentioned that I'm a child psychiatrist, so that means I had to do an additional 2 years, and that's considered a fellowship. More intensive training around thinking about children and how they develop. And I like to say if you're an adult psychiatrist, you really then have not gotten enough work done because you really should be all child trained too, because it really talks about development and how we all experience childhood. So whether I'm working with an adult or not, what happens in childhood affects you for the rest of your life. Your relationship with your parents, how you were in school, how you formed relationships, all of those things interact with each other. So that's a psychiatrist. We typically, we prescribe medicine because we went to medical school, so we have the ability to do that. And then there are some of us that still decide to do therapy. And so you'll see more of those people, or the people that we consider in private practice. A lot of people that you'll see in like private practice on their own, many of them will do therapy as well. And I'm in a clinical setting or a hospital setting, sometimes our time is limited, so we don't get to do that as much. But that is typically what psychiatrists get to do. Versus someone like a psychologist, so someone that has the PhD behind their name, or sometimes you'll see PsyD, PsyD behind their name. So psychologists are trained, they don't prescribe medicine, they don't go to medical school, but they went to grad school, and they get a lot of understanding around how to assess people for a mental health issue, and an array of therapy they can do for mental health issues, many different types of therapies. And they're actually also more research inclined. So lots of studies and thinking about assessments and tools you can use to further make sure you have the right diagnosis. And last but not least, for psychologists, they often not all of them, but some of them actually do specialize in doing what we call psychological testing. And so you can think of that as maybe a kid who's really struggling in school. People don't really understand what's going on, and you actually want them to do more of a formal, it's like a test. Okay. So the psychologist will sit with them and do a lot of different, what we call assessments, so sort of like questionnaires. They'll ask them lots of things. Yeah, it takes hours to do, and it can be quite expensive, but there are psychologists trained to do that. And then I think the other bucket, if you will, of mental health professionals are what we call, you'll hear people say therapists or counselors, or not necessarily calling them psychologists, but those are people who have a master's degree. And so those are your licensed professional counselors, or licensed clinical social workers, or licensed marriage and family therapists. So there's a huge array, but they have a master's program, and they have to do so many clinical hours with a supervisor to make sure that they're good. 3,000 hours. So a lot of hours to make sure that they're ready to do therapy on their own, whatever they decide to practice.
Or I did my 3,000 hours and did my board. Yeah. Then I did a fellowship in behavioral medicine, where I went back to like UTMB and trained with family residents. So that was because I wanted to understand the medication side. Right. Because once I got all those hours done, I'm like, oh my gosh, all these people are taking some sort of medication, and I'm feeling very like inadequate right now.
Yeah.
Right.
They just continued my like you did the 2 year,
Mm-hmm.
and so I feel like having done that fellowship, I feel very comfortable in like that's why I got hired in an inpatient setting. Otherwise, I probably would have been more like outpatient or maybe community counseling.
Yeah.
Yeah, which brings me to think about like psychiatrists in particular. Really, there are plenty of times people may come in and we're really thinking about the physical aspect. So there are things that can present from a mental health standpoint. So low mood, feeling depressed and sad, that we would want to get lab work to check out to make sure that it's not a thyroid issue. That's a big example. Like it happens often that your thyroid could be the thing making you feel that way. And we actually want to treat your thyroid. And I don't want to put you on an antidepressant. So that's the nice thing I think about being a psychiatrist, that we're really thinking about both the medical and physical aspects as well as the mental health. And we kind of calling that we're going to rule out all the physical things that could present the way you're presenting to me. Like psychosis, so people hearing and seeing things that other people in the room can't hear or see. That could be a medical issue. Something may be impacting your brain. Maybe there's like a tumor, or there's something there. So sometimes we do scans first before deciding, oh yeah, we're labeling you and saying that you have something, when it's just like we really need someone, we need a brain surgeon, we need a neurosurgeon, and so we do a lot of those labs and other procedures first to make sure that we're not missing anything before we go the route of like this, it only can be explained by something like a mental illness. And you had sort of asked, like, how do we think about there are a lot of different mental illnesses. I think across the board, we have like a book that we use called the DSM that helps guide how we think about when does someone meet the level of having a disorder. And I'll say across all of them, I think the biggest thing that we all have to remember to look at is that how is it impacting the way you're functioning? And your baseline. So there's 4 of us in the room right now. We each go about our day in different ways. Each one of us has probably a different baseline of how we interact with others and what we do and how we get to work and interact with our family and friends. But when you start having this thing in your life, whether it be like, oh, well, I'm not sleeping that great, I'm not eating the same, that might be very different. Maybe you've always eaten 1 meal a day and that's normal for you, but I've eaten 3 and now all of a sudden I like barely want to eat. Maybe now I'm at the 1. That's very different. So I'm thinking about it, and your friends and family around you may also be noticing things too. Hey, you're not coming out with us as much. Your partner may be like, you're in bed a lot more. I used to see you out and about making plans with your friends and doing other things. And so that's what I mean with change in functioning. There's some change in you and the way you are interacting with your family and the world around you. And at that point, we would want you hopefully to catch it before it gets so bad where maybe you're starting to miss a lot of work, where you're laying in bed all the time, where you're really not engaged in anything anymore. We hope you would start thinking about it way before that, to get engaged with a therapist, start talking through things, figuring those things out. And then there's a line that maybe you and your therapist figure out, like, I've done this for a couple months maybe, and it's not, I think I need something else. I need something more because I feel a bit better, but I'm not even like halfway better, right? And that's typically when psychiatrists will come in. I'm a big proponent of therapy. I think therapy is excellent. And often some people sometimes come to me first and haven't even engaged in therapy. And I'm like, I really want you to do both. Like, I'm fine, like it sounds really bad. Let's prescribe something, but I really want you to just be with a therapist too. More times than not, I'm like prescribing both, if you will. Like, please, let's find you a therapist.
And sometimes that's because sometimes we get stuck in a problem because of the way we look at a problem. So when we talk about CBT, we've talked about cognitive behavioral therapy. You can have medication on board, but you get to a place in your treatment where you reach or go past the therapeutic dose, and you're going to need more and more of the same medication. But if you haven't learned how to think differently around your problems or your relationships, then you're just going to be in this kind of lifelong journey on taking even more meds. It's like anything else. It's like people who want to get in a bikini and go to the beach and cheat, take diet pills.
Right.
Versus if you change your lifestyle, if you change the way you eat, then you don't have to go through that,
correct,
cycle. So I think even when you do the counseling or the talk therapy side, you always want to have that out there, that at some point we're going to try all these different things, and it may be that you have genetic loading. Maybe you've got 5 generations of depression and anxiety, and we may get to a point where we need something on board. I kind of want you to talk about, because a lot of people come to me and say, am I going to get addicted? Will I be hooked? So maybe the fast acting, slow acting, like SSRI, like kind of, I want some wisdom from you.
I mean, I'm going to make a lot of, global, so big statements, because it's hard unless somebody's in front of you and we know what we're going to prescribe. So most of our medicines are not addictive at all, and that's probably the big thing that people come into the office very concerned about, like, am I going to be addicted? The answer is no. There are a couple of types of medicines that we're very careful with prescribing, and we actually don't prescribe that much because we are worried about that. But it's also based on looking at someone's history and someone's family history. So you mentioned there's 5 generations of anxiety, or well, substance use, right, is also something that can be it's highly genetic as well. So dad was an alcoholic, dad's dad was an alcoholic. There's aunts in the family and then this person that's in front of me has been drinking to sort of cope with different things. I might be worried then about prescribing that person medicine, that particular class of medicine that I know can be addictive, because I don't want to add something else that a new problem to the list already. But let's talk about what's common is common. And so depression and anxiety are very common. Most people in their lifetime might, unfortunately, suffer from depression and or anxiety. And those medicines, unfortunately, are like, even if you come in with just anxiety, the class of medicine is called antidepressants.
Correct.
And so they were just named that, but they actually help one or the other or both.
They make people nice.
Happy and nice.
Right. And less anxious and able to explore the world. And so those medicines in particular are not addictive by any nature. And right. And that's like the thing we prescribe often, and primary care doctors, psychiatrists, because a lot of people unfortunately are dealing with depression and or anxiety. But those meds are not addictive. I think what the difficulty in our field, and I'll say, is that we don't know which one is going to be right for you. And so that makes it hard, and that makes it hard for the person sitting in front of me. And I'm like, I can tell you about them, and I'm going to recommend one, and this may not be the one for you, but we don't know until we try.
Correct.
And so sometimes it takes 2 or 3 tries. Sometimes we get it on the first try to figure out which one, the way you break down medicine in your body and all the things that I just can't predict. And unfortunately, there's nothing that can help us predict that. That's the hard part, I think, about the work, because people also want it to happen quickly.
Yes.
And this type of medicine, if we're talking about medicine for depression and anxiety, it doesn't happen quickly either. Sometimes it takes like 6 to 8 weeks to see any type of effect.
But sometimes that happens with blood pressure. I mean, I have family members that try 2 or 3.
Right. And so we get a bad rap a bit, but like, right, we're constantly getting a bad rap. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Dr. Durham, but we have to go on a short break. We're having a really great conversation, and time goes by fast. So let's go on a short break, and when we return, we will continue our conversation. This is Chai Time on 99.5 FM. Welcome back to Chai Time on 99.5 FM. We are in conversation with Dr. Durham and Mahtab, and we have a wonderful guest here. From Nami.
I crashed the party. It sounded great. I wanted to join in.
Hello. Good morning. How are you doing today?
Doing wonderful.
I'm meeting you for the first time, but I love the vibe going on.
It's a pleasure.
Here.
It's a pleasure. Listen, it's walk week, so
yes.
I'm carrying that energy all the way through Saturday.
All right. So, tell us a little bit about
Well, this May is Mental Health Month,
Right.
and as a part of Mental Health Month, our NAMI affiliate has a walk, an annual walk every year to raise awareness and really show support for all of the families and individuals impacted by mental illness. We have a huge, it's a fundraising event. However, it's a weird kind of fundraiser event. We have sponsors that donate to the walk, but the walkers come at no cost. So we want as many people to show up and show our supporters how much we appreciate their embrace on that day. We anticipate anywhere between 2,500 and 3,000 walkers.
Wow.
We've been endorsed, if you will, blessed by the Houston Astros Foundation. So they are sending Orbit. First baseman Jose Abreu is cutting the ribbon. I didn't know they had cheerleaders, but the cheerleaders are coming. And the street dancers are coming with a lot of swag. So if you want a lot of swag,
it's a party.
It's going to be a party. And there are 1,800 T-shirts signed by Abreu for everyone who comes on that day. Great. You did. The name of Jose Abreu's team is Happy Jack. So if you sign up before the day of Happy Jack 79, you're sure to get a T-shirt. But I don't think they're running out. The AKA Omega Club came over this last weekend, rolled up all 1,800 shirts. So we'll be passing those out as quickly as we can. The only thing we really, really request is that you register.
Okay.
Registration is free, but capturing that information and getting a sign-off on the liability of walking on the trail on Allen Parkway is required. That's not our rule. That's like a city ordinance. So we really need everyone to register. If you haven't registered by Saturday, of course you can come early, 7:30, and register at the event. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got the U.S. Regional Director of Health and Human Services is going to be on program that morning. The mayor's not coming, unfortunately. He has another event, same time. So get through with your walk really quick, get you some free stuff, maybe a burrito from Uber Burrito, who's coming with a food truck, and then head on over to the mayor's event. But yeah. Like I said, it's more than a walk. It's a walk, and it's a lot of festivities and activities. We're passing out psychiatric aid awards. So as soon as we come back from the walk, we're going to highlight those hospitals that want to do a special honor because, some of our nurses are unsung. They do heroic things right there in the hospital, and so we want to appreciate and love on a few of them. But most of all, it is the family. It is the people that are there that are impacted by mental illness. They see this as a big hug by doctors, advocates, hospitals, just police. Everyone is going to be out there, and so we want everyone to join in and get one of those Happy Jack signed Jose Abreu shirts.
Wow. Or rain or shine.
Rain or shine. So this is what I'm saying. Don't go to the beauty shop on Friday. Wait till after Saturday. Whenever it has rained really for the last 3 years, and so it rains a little bit, and then the sun comes out, and then you dry off really quick.
Right.
And so Houston weather. What can I say? If you don't like it, wait 5 minutes, it'll change. And so and again, if you come like a mood, if you come in your own shirt though and get rained on, just get a Happy Jack 79 shirt.
There we go. Covered.
And we got you covered.
Yes. And it starts at 8 a.m. Correct?
The walk actually launches at 8:30. That's the cutting of the ribbon. But the program does start at 8 o'clock. And we want people to get registered. So if you've not registered before the day of, and it's a family event. So all ages, the whole family can come. And there's a game that night. So if you want to, bring a picnic. Come for the walk, head over to the mayor's event, stay for a while, and then walk down to Minute Maid.
All right. That is fun. Yeah. I'm going to try and make it for Saturday for sure.
And we do have, those outdoor, people ask us about two things. Where do you park? So most of the parking downtown, we have a reduced rate. So the larger, but if you go to our website, the parking information is there, but there are 3 or 4 garages that have given us a $5 rate for parking. And then the other thing is, what do I do if I have to go to the restroom? Well, we have a wonderful, Shep Boys is handling our little outside latrines, if you will, and there's sinks, and they're ADA approved, some of them. So we've got everything. We've got water. We've got everything covered. We've got Uber Burrito. Listen, we got you covered the front and the back.
Drinks,
food.
Everything.
Now, some of the food is like packaged. We have oranges and bananas because it's a walk, right?
Oh, yes.
So if somebody has a cramp or Charlie Horse, we've got you covered there as well. But then Uber Burrito is going to donate 20% of their proceeds back to NAMI Greater Houston. And understand that the funds that are raised by this event, it goes to giving us the ability to offer all of our programs and services at no cost to the people that we serve. We never charge a family for anything that we do, whether it's the launching a new support group or trainings or classes or even the warm line. We've expanded now from 2 operators to 4 operators, and that is, we don't pass that cost, we absorb it. So this is how we're able to do that.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's a wonderful program that we have. Honestly, I don't know anyone else who does what we do. And what we do specifically is we walk the journey with families and individuals living with mental illness. So psychoeducation is first. Understand what you got and how does it affect you and what are you going to do about it? Where do you go? Who do you talk to? There's a whole host of providers. There are advocates. There are people who really care. And I think that's the misinformation. Nobody cares about me. I'm suffering alone.
Yes.
No, there's tons of people looking for you. So we help provide that connection. And then you know how you go over to someone's house for Mother's Day or Father's Day or Easter or Thanksgiving and you tell those same stories of horror and terror over and over and over again. Well, the family doesn't want to hear those, but NAMI does. So come to our support groups. We'll walk that journey. We'll help you, get more hope and resilience in your own recovery journey. Yeah. And so that's what we're about.
I have to say, I think it's been about a decade that I've always participated in the NAMI walk.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I was in Boston previously, as I mentioned
That's
earlier.
a great walk, though.
So it's a great walk. But I think I just want to highlight one of the points you made in that even for us on the clinical side, there's many times that I said prescribing many things, right? Prescribing medicine, prescribing therapy, but also it was groups. And I think the family support groups, like when a parent is coming in and like we're saying, okay, this is what we think is going on with your kid and we're giving a diagnosis, I think there is a moment of shock and they don't hear anything else we say.
No, it takes a while.
It takes a while. And so that was another thing to send them to the website and then to support groups in the area. And so as much as, it's free, go and do it, but all the donations and everything, I think there's no better organization locally, but, NAMI has a national presence, right? And it's in almost every state.
30 years?
34 years here in the greater Houston area.
Yeah.
We started off just caring for the caregiver, parents of adults who are dealing with mental illness. But in the last 5 to 10 years, it's been a much higher focus on youth, children, even in elementary school, working with those parents so that they don't lose hope.
Yeah.
Or run, hide, so they actually address it. Most of the time, if the clinician is saying you've got to set boundaries, you've got to set limits, you've got to let some things go, the parents come to us and they want to know how.
Right.
And so through our stories, through our experiences, with an evidence-based curriculum, we share the how. And I think that's the critical part that most families are looking for.
Yeah, and then just other people that are going through this process, right? Like the mental health system is complicated.
It is. And scary. It can be scary.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can appreciate that. And so they can hold their hand through that journey in ways that I think sometimes the clinicians just don't have the time and space to do, unfortunately. But that's the partner that can be really helpful in navigating this really scary process.
Right. And listen, this is proven. Peer-led help and support is proven.
Yep.
It's proven in the addiction community. It's proven in the cancer diagnosis and sickle cell and other medical conditions. You have a peer that walks with that family. Transplants, things like that. You have peers that walk the journey. This is just another opportunity for peers to kind of find their people, find people who are non-critical, non-judgmental, and supportive to give them helpful, informative, solutions. Been there, done that. And also a community, right?
Yes.
A social group. So this walk is a huge social opportunity. And so I remember one year we actually canceled the walk because a few days before Allen Parkway had flooded, and we didn't want, and it was raining that weekend, and we didn't want to create any undue anxiety on the people who were coming. But then the sun came. It stormed forever that morning, but then the sun came out at 8:30. Do you know people still came? There were no barricades, but we could still see people on the sidelines walking for the walk. So, and wearing their old T-shirts. So we're not canceling. It's rain or shine. And I can tell you just this morning I was at storage pulling all of the banners out. So we're going to honor our sponsors, our family donors, the T-shirts this year. We have NAMI T-shirts again, and we also have Happy Jack 79 T-shirts, 1,800 of them. So please don't make us take back all those T-shirts to the office.
It's not gonna
Come,
happen.
come get one and support Jose Abreu at that game. There's a game that day at 4:00. So
Great.
That's so great. And
Thank you for coming.
I know I wasn't gonna miss it. We were celebrating Eid in a few celebrations.
And I'm like, wouldn't it be a cute idea if you just came? Like, what?
It just
now
jumped
that you're
in.
Busy.
Yeah.
I love that you did that.
I know. I've been in a
love
hot.
you as a human.
No. Oh, same here. I tell her there's no one who better supports Nami on social media than Mahtab. Every time I read something, I go to look to see where it came from. Oh, that's Mahtab. Oh, that's Mahtab. Oh, that's and I'm about to say, this is social media contractor. What are you doing? Mahtab is just dancing circles around you. But
I don't think it's a good thing. But if I get excited about something, it becomes me.
It becomes who you are. It becomes who you are. But you know, the tragedy is this: as much as we talk about it, there are still people sitting at home, listening at home, and they think that they're alone. They feel that they're isolated. I'm saying anonymously, just pick up the phone and call the NAMI office. Everyone that answers our phone is either a peer in recovery or a family member of someone who's in recovery. Imagine that. There's no story that you could tell that does not resonate with someone who is answering the phone at the NAMI office. And if no one answers, because I've noticed now that we've been on the phone and the phone is still ringing, then leave a message and someone will call you back. But those who are answering the phones, and I just got 2 new interns today, they started today, they are all living with lived experience. And so that should bring comfort to those. Many times people call and we ask them, what do they need? What do they want? They don't know. And so now we ask, so just tell us what's going on. And that's a better way to get to what they need and what they want. So we know that a diagnosis is really where it starts. So we have to help people navigate those waters and figure out.
When you have your label, and then you can go find your
Yes.
toolbox and your support, and then your therapist can be your navigation.
So downtown Houston, 1000 Bagby is where the walk is going to be on Saturday at 8 o'clock. But let me tell you, 45 will get you there, 59 will get you there, 288, 610 will take you dancing around and around. But my point is, it's the same way with a mental health diagnosis. Just because you have a diagnosis doesn't mean one freeway is going to get you to the recovery that you're looking for. So understand that what NAMI does is give you all of the options in bite-sized pieces. We read to you. You don't even have to read yourself. And we support you while you make your mind up. And you don't have to know everything all at once. And nobody can blame you for stuff that no one ever told you. So we remove all of the blame, shame, and guilt. And we just sit with people until they kind of figure out where they want to start and what they're willing to do to get better. So that's our role. There's no real scientific way to this. It's just don't give up. Don't stop reaching out for help. And, call NAMI. And if you don't call NAMI, call 988.
Yes.
We have a new number now.
Right.
Not 911. It was that if you had a mental health crisis, you just call 911. But 988, either by phone call or by text, you can let someone know, listen, there is a mental health problem and I don't know where to start.
Or a substance problem. That's another.
Sure. Or a substance problem.
Our kiddos are dealing with a lot of substance issues.
It's sort of like the horse and the cart. What came first? Sometimes people will experiment with a certain type of substance and it can trigger maybe an underlying predisposition for a mental health problem. You wouldn't have had it had you not, no blame there, but still we have to address it, right? And then sometimes people are dealing with anxiety or phobias or even hearing voices, and they will take a medication to try to control it. And mask it. So no matter what came first, the chicken or the egg, 988 is still there to help, and direct, and at least point you in the right direction. And what I'm learning is that a lot of young people are using it because of the text feature. You can just text your story rather than call someone. So that reduces anxiety when you can put that layer of distance between getting, someone live on the phone. Right. And so anyway, 988. If you can't call NAMI, call 988.
And just remember that 988 is national. So
yes.
Every state is doing that. It rolled out July, I think, of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so every state, so no matter where you are, that you can call 988 and get the help you need. I want to touch upon, though, one thing you mentioned about, different roads, 610, 49, I-10, a really great metaphor, but also not to give up after the first person you see.
Sure.
Sometimes that first person you see may not have all the information in front of them, may provide a diagnosis that seems scary. Maybe they didn't go about it the right way. Maybe it didn't feel like someone that was compatible with you. And all of those things can happen, and it just means you just need to find the person that resonates with you and your experience and what you need. So don't give up. I think that mental health is just such a intimate experience in a way. I mentioned when we first started that we're expecting you to sort of tell your story. You may not want to tell your story to the person in front of you because of something they did or how they appear or what they said to you. And it may feel really scary in that moment, and you finish that hour with them, and you're like,
I'm never going back.
I don't want to go back to this person. And and I just want to reiterate that is okay.
That is okay.
Or sometimes you may look like the person that was in their trauma story, and it has nothing to do with what kind of clinician you are, but just the way you
wasn't a good match.
Your demeanor,
right?
So I think even when you talk about the shame, guilt, taking that away, in my experience with especially teens, sometimes I became that anchor adult for them. So part of the process of therapy was that they didn't want to let me down, and I'm like, sweetie, you gotta get real with me. I signed up for this, so we complete this journey, and you don't need to be worried about whether I like you or if you had codes this weekend. I mean, I signed up for this with you.
Sure.
So having, coming at it from multiple angles, I think you're going to catch it. Whether it's a psychiatrist that just has a very meaningful talk about medication management and self-regulation, or someone in a support group that, look like them, walk like them, and went through the same journey and is like 5 years ahead of it and is mentoring other people. Like, if we come at it from multiple angles, we're going to make an impact.
Right.
We're so blessed. I mean, we have NAMI, an organization, and then we have doctors, psychiatrists like Dr. Durham. We live in such a great country where there is so much help, so many resources available. We're truly blessed, and I think we have to encourage people, and we've talked so much about breaking that stigma and that fear, especially in our our community, our culture as such. And the more I feel like the more we talk about it, gets easier. People who are listening, for today, and they must be like, okay, it's a normal thing. It's not something bad. It's something to be shameful about. So it's I'm so grateful. I'm just
Well, thank you for having us. Yes, for opening up this avenue for us to talk.
Yeah, and we're touching on so many things. It's there's so much to cover. Each time we come here, there's more and more. It's not just one thing, right? There's everything, but it is related to mental health. So yeah, so that's just so wonderful.
Well, thank you.
Mahtab brought some cream, and
This is so funny. It's healing.
I was
Tell the story again.
about this kid who was court appointed when I worked at Inpatient, and we typically had them for 18 months, and we had a built-in school in our hospital, and so I was assigned to him, and whenever he would have psychotic episodes, because when you deal with schizoaffective or schizophrenia, sometimes your medication needs to be tweaked, and it won't work for you the same way. And when he was going through a psychotic episode, I just worked on grounding techniques, and I was a safe person for him because I kind of became his maternal figure. So I would just make tea for him, and not realizing I always had lotion on my desk. And when he was graduating with his diploma, I said, well, it's been a journey. And of course I was boo-hoo crying because I'm this kid had no mother, no father, and now we're going to release him to the world. And so I got quite attached. And I said, well, what do you think think we should do? Should we go have a lunch together? How are we going to transition this awesome story that we shared together? And there's about this much of my lotion left. And he's like, I think I want to take this with me. Because whenever I felt bad, I'd come in here, you make me tea, you've got candy and chocolate, and I put this on. So this smell has become very meaningful for me. So, but at the last episode we talked about it, and somehow I went, whoop, like 12 years back to this lotion. This morning I went to my Starbucks, and I look over, and I never noticed the Bath and Body, and I'm like, I Googled what time they open. I said, I'm supposed to go do this. So I brought you guys some lotion.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. It's sort of a grounding. Your olfactory memory is so strong. You know, for some people it's auditory, but olfactory is another big
People get
trigger.
attached to me with my perfume, my other lotion, and this one. I'm like, for me it was the same. The smell of certain
Cherry
teas
blossoms.
get me. And I grew up in northern Iran, so cherry blossoms are a very special thing because during spring, our entire village was full of cherry blossoms. So that's what attracted me to go buy this in the first place.
And for him, he'll never forget it.
Yeah.
He'll never forget
The
it.
childhood, Michelle, like, she's going to be here every week for the next...
We still have a lot to cover.
I know, we skimmed the surface.
You really did.
Clear Michelle's schedule.
But when I walked in, you were talking about medication, and that is the number one fear of parents with smaller children. They're so afraid of doing something wrong or that will irreparably harm their child's brain. And I was one of those parents, by the way. I was very reluctant with ADHD meds, and then when I finally did it, it did have an adverse effect, and he had to take another med, and that, that was just the normal thing. But what really stabilized me, so NAMI is not the only rodeo. I tell people, I used to say this all the time, I don't anymore, they're adults and I don't have the same challenges, but when they were younger, it took 12 organizations for me to work. Because I needed the support of all of those different organizations. NAMI is sort of like a clearinghouse. It doesn't matter what the diagnosis is because we don't deal with the diagnosis actually. We deal with all of the issues related to caregiving, right? But there's CHAD, which is a state ADHD program. There's ADA-SR, which we're in the South region, so Attention Deficit Association. That's local, ADA-SR, Family to Family Network. But what I'm doing though is trying to highlight the fact that there's so much you don't know, and the only thing that dispels fear is education. There's really nothing else. Understanding, having a thorough understanding. I'm not saying you have to have a PhD in child psychology, although you feel like it after 20 years. But you don't have to have that. What you have to have is just what you need in the moment. And I found that these other organizations that were specific to the diagnosis, so you have depression and bipolar disorder with Remind, you have ADA, Family to Family Network with autism and Asperger's, but you have all of these local SARTA for schizophrenia and related disorders, all of these local organizations right here in Houston. I mean, we are rich with nonprofit, community-based organizations that are committed to helping you find the right specialist or researcher or new therapy to give you that information. I even found a new one that was not around when my kiddos were small called Biogenetics, and they do a test to see how different drugs, NSSRIs, are actually metabolized in your body, right? So I'm just saying, there's just more information out there. No one's paying me. This is not a commercial, but I'm just saying that information is key, and becoming educated and things that impact whatever diagnosis an adult or child is dealing with. Sometimes it's a spouse. So you just want to know what's out there. And there are conferences that are local. Learning in the Brain is one that I would attend often. So it's just about getting yourself educated to reduce the fear.
My, it's time. We could have gone on for another hour.
I'm so sorry.
No. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me here on Chai Time. And Dr. Durham, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to see you back for sure. I'm going to send you all the dates that are open because we have so much to talk about, so much to touch on, and for people. I've actually had I had a listener yesterday who came to my restaurant and said, "Hey, I listened to the radio and your show is just so amazing," and it was so nice to hear that. And he's an Uber driver, and he listens to our show every Monday at 11 o'clock. So that's so amazing. Yes. I'm like, there's so many other stations, there's music you could listen to, he picked Chai Time, so it was really nice. He says it's important, the topics that you're touching on. Yeah. So thank you, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you Saturday at the walk, May 20th.
Yes.
8 o'clock, rain or shine.
Definitely. Thank you, listeners, for tuning into Chai Time. We shall see you same time next week. Signing off, Chai Time on 99.5 FM.